President Trump announced Wednesday that China will make it easier for American industry to obtain much-needed magnets and rare earth minerals, clearing the way for talks to continue between the world's two biggest economies. In return, Trump said the U.S. will stop efforts to revoke the visas of Chinese nationals on U.S. college campuses. Details remain scarce. Trump didn't fully spell out what concessions the U.S. has made. On Wall Street, the Dow down by a point, the Nasdaq dropping 99, the S&P lower by 16, oil up to $67.89 a barrel. More at townhall.com.
Why'd I go to the doctor? My heart would race just taking my son to practice. It didn't feel right. So I got checked out. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit notimetowait.com. Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
At Straight Talk, we are all about no-brainers. Calling Grandma for her recipe, no-brainer. Streaming one more episode at 2 a.m., big no-brainer. Getting real unlimited data where you buy bananas, the ultimate no-brainer. Switch now and get a free Samsung Galaxy A16 5G or Moto G Power 5G 2025 with select plans. Straight Talk, real unlimited data. Available at Walmart and StraightTalk.com. Offer valid through 7/20/25. Taxes and fees apply. Requires in-store activation of single line gold unlimited plan or higher. For network management practices, visit StraightTalk.com/terms. Copyright 2025 Verizon.
Here's the Wall Street Business Report.
Wall Street's rally stalled after stocks climbed back within 2% of their all-time high. The S&P 500 slipped 0.3%, marking its first drop in 4 days. The Dow ended little changed, and the Nasdaq Composite lost 0.5%. The action was stronger in the bond market, where Treasury yields eased after a report showed inflation ticked up less last month than economists had expected. That raised expectations for the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates later this year. Markets did not react much to the conclusion of 2 days of trade talks between the U.S. and China. The Dow was down 1 point to 42,865. The Nasdaq lost 99 to 19,615. The S&P 500 dropped 16 points to 6022. For the Wall Street Business Report, I'm John Scott.
News and analysis at townhall.com.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's your Wednesday evening forecast. A few isolated storms remain possible through the evening with otherwise partly cloudy skies overnight. Lows fall to the low 70s by morning. Looking to Thursday, highs stay near 90 with more scattered storms developing in the afternoon. Rain chances climb slightly to 40%. That chance holds steady each afternoon through the rest of the week. I'm Cal Moss with your on-point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point. This is The Point. Make The Point radio.
This is Sports Talk with Phil Kornblut and Chris Bergen. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on SportsTalkSC.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil and Chris with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
All right, welcome in, everybody. Sports Talk here on the Sports Talk Media Network on this Wednesday night, right in the middle of the week. It's all downhill from here. Great to have you with us, coming to you from our Grand Strand studios tonight. I'm a little bit east of the Berge Palace, but I came through, Berge, I came through what I would call Hugo Jr. on my way down here. Man, we hit a storm in Marion County that was just blowing. I mean, it was tornado-like. I'm sure it hit your area as well. Heavy rain, big-time winds, dark clouds. But now around the Grand Strand, at least, it was drizzling when I got to my location, but seems to have cleared up, or maybe it hasn't reached here yet. Maybe it's heading east.
No, it's nice here. I cleared off, about 4:30 this afternoon, but good grief, from around 2:30 until about 4. I mean, dark clouds. We probably got about an inch of rain in that span of time. I mean, it dumped with the thunder and the lightning. So, yeah, it was a fun summer afternoon to deal with. And my poor dog, poor Finn, is not, he does not like loud noises. So he spent most of the day in the bathtub.
What a great idea. I'd like to have done that, spend most of the day in the bathtub. That sounds like a dog's life. Nothing like a dog's life, is it?
Oh, gosh, no. I've told people for a long time, find someone who loves you half as much as your dog does, and you're going to be in good shape.
Absolutely. Well, we hope everybody's had a great day and you're feeling good. We got a great show lined up for you tonight. By the way, a little bit of breaking news in baseball. Big pickup for Clemson. Ryan Weidman has committed to the Tigers. He is a power-hitting outfielder from Western Kentucky, and he is the son of former Clemson basketball player Tom Weidman. If you don't know who Tom Weidman is, do you remember Tom Weidman, Bergie?
I do.
Tom Weidman was part of the Slab Five. That was Rick Barnes' first team, and they were a bunch of nobodies that he put together with Greg Buckner. Greg Buckner, who he had when he was at Providence, Greg Buckner committed to him at Providence. And when Rick Barnes took the job at Clemson, Greg Buckner transferred or not transferred. I guess he just got out of his LOI to Providence and signed with Clemson. And, of course, became a great player and on to being an NBA player and an NBA assistant coach as well. And so Tom Weidman was part of that team, was part of they called it the Slab Five because they were just a bunch of thrown together nobodies and put together a really good season under Rick Barnes and a good run under Rick Barnes. And so his son, Ryan, who's a big kid, has developed into a big-time baseball prospect at Western Kentucky, where he lit it up there, and now he's transferring to Clemson. So nice pickup for the Tigers out of the portal, John, for baseball.
Yeah, this is a kid who had almost 400 this past season, Phil, and he's had to be one of the big targets in the transfer portal, not just for Clemson, but for everybody. I mean, when you watch this season move along, you started hearing this kid's name. You knew he wasn't going to stay at Western Kentucky, and this is a huge get for Clemson. It probably helped out a lot that his dad played basketball there for sure.
Yeah, he came in for his official visit over the weekend, and obviously he's been to Clemson many times. Already has that feel. It was just a matter of time before all this became official that he was going to end up at Clemson. The season that he had, first of all, he's a big kid. He's 6'5", 204. So he's a big guy.
He looks like a baseball player, almost a basketball player, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, he's got that look to him. And then you look at his numbers from this season and his career at Western Kentucky, and they're pretty impressive. He put up some really good numbers during his time there. Just to give you a summary, his his season this past season, the 2025 season, he hit 398 in 60 games. He had 10 home runs, 68 RBIs, 20 doubles. So you can tell for a guy his size, he runs pretty well. 6 triples, and drew 23 walks. So terrific all-around player. 45 stolen bases to boot. 45. So he is 6'5", 204, and he's stealing 45 bases. I think he played a little junior college ball before he went to Western Kentucky. So this was really just his first year at Western Kentucky. Before that, he had played he played 2 seasons at Georgia Highlands College. So then he goes to Western Kentucky for a season, and now on to Clemson. What a statistical what a group of statistics for a guy this size. The speed he must have, excellent speed for a guy his size.
Yeah, evidently so. And you wonder, with his ability to steal bases and get on base, there may be your replacement for Cam Canarella in the leadoff spot for them.
Possibly. So South Carolina and Clemson have been active in the baseball portal. We'll update all that, and this is the most recent news. Coming up on the show tonight, of course, it's the eve of the U.S. Open at Oakmont. I'm so looking forward to this. MJ Ward will be with us at 6:35 to give us a preview from Oakmont. But, I mean, in my mind, I'll ask MJ this too. I mean, in my mind, Oakmont is the most difficult stop of the U.S. Open rotation of courses that they go through. It always brings the golfers to their knees. And I think every once in a while we like to see that, don't we? We like to see these guys really have to fight against par and even win a U.S. Open over par. That's not unheard of. And Oakmont's just the place to do it with that heavy, heavy rough all around the course. And if you miss a fairway, you're in a heck of a lot of trouble. And so we'll have MJ with us coming up here at 6:35.
Excuse me, Phil. Golf Channel analyst Brendel Chambly, I saw him on ESPN late this afternoon. He said there are people talking in Oakmont about the possibility of not just being above par, but perhaps the winning score being double-digit above par.
Really? That would be incredible to see.
Because it looks like, just from some of the highlights I've seen, if you stray off the fairway by an inch, you've added at least 2 shots to your score on that hole. Because just one to get back into the fairway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, the rough, as you pointed out, is just extremely long, and I love it. I think the U.S. Open ought to be this challenging. If you're going to win a national championship, I say it in every other sport, if you're going to win a national championship, you ought to be nearly perfect. You got to be good, and you're going to have to be good for 4 days this weekend to win that.
Well, like George Bryan would tell us, I mean, hit it in the fairway, you don't have to worry about the rough.
Exactly. Pretty simple game.
You know, and the other big story besides that is what is up with Rory. And all of a sudden, since he's won the Masters, he's only played a couple of times, but missed the cut at the Canadian. He's got a new driver. He's all over the place with it. You're wondering, you know, if he's maybe lost a little edge after completing the career Grand Slam after the Masters. Is he going to bounce back and have a competitive tournament beginning tomorrow at the U.S. Open? That'll be another story, of course, to watch as well. And, of course, just how they handle this course and who's going to avoid getting into that nasty rough and taking the bogeys. And in a lot of cases, bogey's going to be good. Bogey's going to be your friend in a lot of cases because of how this course plays and how tough it is. So looking forward to it as it gets underway first thing tomorrow morning. And we'll have MJ with us coming up tonight at 6:35. Also coming up tonight, we are going to be chatting with Jay Paterno. That is the son of Joe Paterno. Jay Paterno, a longtime coach himself on the collegiate level at Penn State for most of his career. He has written a book on coaches and NIL, and he's going to be joining us at 7:05. to talk about that. 7:35, Coach Cody Flournoy of Jackson, Alabama. He is the coach of USC target quarterback Landon Duckworth. And so we'll get the latest from him after Duckworth made his official visit to South Carolina over the weekend, where the Gamecocks kind of fit in as far as the coach knows. Of course, he still has a couple of more visits coming up, and Auburn's a big factor with him as well. We'll go into all that with the coach. In fact, they were at the University of Alabama today for a 7-on-7. Now, University of Alabama, not a factor in this recruitment, but Auburn certainly is, and Ole Miss certainly is, and South Carolina certainly is as well. So looking forward to having him on with us tonight. Bergie, as I was traveling this afternoon, did anything come up to catch your eye that we need to touch on?
Oh, absolutely. Probably the biggest story in the state today is that the SEC, in its infinite wisdom, has already decided we'll set the kickoff times for every game, for the most part, with the few exceptions throughout the regular season. And the Carolina-Clemson game is going to be a 12 noon showdown in Columbia.
They've already determined the kickoff time.
They have. Matter of fact, USC has 1, 2, 3, 4 of their games already pretty much set in stone.
Why would they set that game for a noon kickoff time?
That was going to be my question.
This far in advance.
You could potentially have, and let's be positive here for a minute. You could potentially have two of the leading Heisman Trophy candidates going head-to-head. You could have two teams potentially playing to get into the college football playoff. Major bowl bid on the line if it's not for a playoff spot. And you're going to go ahead and put that at noon on on November 29th, and going head-to-head from a nationwide perspective against, I'm sure, Ohio State and Michigan will kick off at noon too.
So what they've done, I'm looking at it now, so they have these windows. They did this last year. They gave you windows. They wanted to give people a chance to plan. At least in most cases, they weren't pinpointing an exact kickoff except for a few early season games and a few late season games that we already know about. Right. But they wanted to give you a window of, okay, this game's going to fall here late at night, the late window, or the late afternoon window, or the early window. But they've already, as you mentioned, they've already put the Clemson and South Carolina game as a noon kickoff. As I go back up through the schedule, looking at this, and this is just for the SEC, the Coastal Carolina at South Carolina game on November 22nd will be in the afternoon window, which is the afternoon window. Do you have the breakdown? The afternoon window is what? That stretches from what to what?
12 to 4, maybe? I don't have it in front of me. Hang on just a second. Let me pull that back up.
All right, I'll go ahead and continue. On the 15th of November, the A&M game for South Carolina will be in the early window.
Okay, the afternoon window is from 3:30 to 4:30 Eastern time.
All right. What's the early window?
The early window is from noon until 1 o'clock Eastern time.
Noon till 1.
And then the night game, the night window, to go ahead and answer your next question, is from 6 to 8 o'clock.
All right, South Carolina at Ole Miss will be a flex right now. It's in the flex category, so that means it could end up most anywhere. And then the South Carolina game against Alabama is in the flex category. That's in Columbia on the 25th of October. And we're going back up the schedule. The next game for South Carolina, the 18th of October against Oklahoma, is listed as early. So that's the 12-1 category, correct?
Correct.
Okay. 12-1 there. Next one for South Carolina would be the Kentucky game.
LSU.
No, I'm sorry, the LSU game. That's in a flex. October 11th, that's a flex. The Kentucky game, which is on September 27th, also is in the flex category. And then backing up to September 20th, the game at Missouri is flex. So they're not giving you, for a lot of games, they're not giving you an idea. Vanderbilt at South Carolina will be 7 or 7:45. I think we already knew that. That was already set. And their September 6th game, South Carolina and South Carolina State, 7 o'clock, that was already set. And, of course, their opener against Virginia Tech, 3 o'clock on that Sunday, August 31st in Atlanta. Already knew that. So you got some idea on some of the games. But that's kind of that's interesting that they would go ahead and pin down the South Carolina-Clemson game for noon. It was noon. It was noon last year up at Clemson,
Correct.
Was it not?
That is correct.
In fact, go back. Over the last 4 or 5 years, it seems to me like the predominant kickoff time for that game has been noon.
Mm-hmm. I think 3 out of the last 4 years, if I'm not mistaken. They had one night game in Columbia in the middle. I guess the last time the two teams played, but otherwise, yeah, it's been an afternoon game. And the question, it begs the question. All right, let's assume for a moment my overly optimistic view actually plays out, and these two teams are in the mix for a college football playoff, and it's a big-time national-type game. They're not going to move it, you wouldn't think. I mean, I'm assuming noon is stamped and written in stone.
Yeah.
And I just wonder why, ESPN and ABC would want to do that to one of the – or what does that say maybe from a national perspective about the rivalry in our state? We know how much it means to us, but how much does it actually mean around the country that they would go ahead and say, we're going to put that one on at noon?
Yeah. That's interesting. I don't know. Maybe they figure, and of course, I'm trying. That would be up against. Now, do they play Ohio State, Michigan? Is that Saturday or Friday? That's still on Saturday.
It's long been a Saturday noon kickoff. As long as I can remember.
Of course, that's a different animal. That's the Fox people. That's not the SEC network and all that kind of stuff, the ESPN, ABC. So you'd be going up against that game, of course. But, look, this South Carolina-Clemson game could certainly have some major implications to it this coming season, both ways. I mean, certainly Clemson feels like they're going to be in a position to make the playoffs, and I think South Carolina coming off the last season, feels like they're going to be good enough to make the playoffs. Okay, we've got the ACC SEC Challenge lineup announced today. This came out this afternoon. I just saw this. So Clemson will play at Alabama as part of the SEC ACC Challenge. Clemson will go to Alabama. Give me the other ones. Florida, Duke, North Carolina at Kentucky. Of course, they want that. And Florida at Duke, how cool is that? National champion going to Duke. Virginia at Texas. NC State at Auburn. Louisville at Arkansas. Oklahoma at Wake Forest. SMU at Vanderbilt. And we'll get to the South Carolina game in a moment. Texas A&M at Pitt. Mississippi State at Georgia Tech. Miami at Ole Miss. LSU at Boston College. Virginia Tech at South Carolina. Mike Young and company.
Mm-hmm.
Someone they can beat, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee at Syracuse, Missouri at Notre Dame, and Georgia at Florida State. Anything
Did the
blow
Gamecocks
you away
play
there?
Virginia Tech last year? Because they were undefeated. They won 3 games against the ACC, if memory serves. I think it was Clemson, Virginia Tech, and I'm trying to remember the third team.
Well, you ask a question, and we shall supply you with the answer, since we can't pull it up off of our memories. Has it gotten so bad that we can't remember?
I know. What happened last year? Of course, the season the Gamecocks had was forgettable for a lot of
That's true.
folks.
You don't. A lot of people. Let's see. The Gamecocks, did they play? Yeah, they did play Virginia Tech, and they beat them 70-60.
Was the other team they played.
Yeah, they beat Virginia Tech 70-60. Let's see. That game was played down in Fort Myers, Florida, so it was part of a tournament back on November 27th. And the Gamecocks, they were 4-3 after they won that game. And who had a big game for the Gamecocks? Colin Murray Boyles had 16 points, and he had 8 rebounds to lead the Gamecocks. So that was a win for them over Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech kind of struggled last year, and so I would think that Mike Young needs to get it going there with Virginia Tech. And South Carolina's got a brand new team for the most part, so you don't know what to really expect from either team going into this season. I don't know. I'm not familiar with the Virginia Tech roster right now and how much of a makeover they have had, but South Carolina has certainly had a major makeover since last season. So, that's a winnable game for South Carolina. Did I say where it was? I said it was in Columbia. So Virginia Tech will come to Columbia. Yeah. Okay. Anything else on your mind before we hit the break?
No, I think that was about it. The schedule release, or at least the kick times, was the most interesting thing this afternoon for sure.
Yeah, very surprising that they went ahead and put a time on that South Carolina and Vanderbilt game. I mean South Carolina and Clemson game. I'm sorry, South Carolina and Clemson. Because I can't even – I don't think we've ever had a kickoff time for that game in the preseason, have we?
No.
It's always been like 2 weeks in advance. The old 14-day window before they put a time on that game. All right, we'll hit the break. Our phone number, 888-898-2525. Back in just a moment.
When I grew up, I want to be a nurse. I want to be an engineer. I want to be a teacher.
There's never been a better time to start making their dreams come true. Future Scholar, South Carolina's 529 college savings plan, makes it easy to save for their future education. Contributions are tax deductible, earnings are tax free, and you can start saving right now with any amount. Go to futurescholar.com today to discover the smart, easy way to save for college. That's futurescholar.com.
This is Major Billy Downer with the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. Boating season is right around the corner here in the Palmetto State. As you get ready for this spring and summer, make sure your registration sticker is up to date and you have a copy of your registration card on board your boat. For more information on boat registration and answers to common questions, visit dnr.sc.gov.
Are you in the market for an auto loan? Move now. Get an auto loan from Founders Federal Credit Union now through October 31st, and you'll be entered to win up to $25,000 toward your qualifying auto loan and a $5,000 deposit into your Loyalty Select account. Loyalty Select is our highest yield savings account. leave it there to grow, or transfer it out to spend. And the best part? We'll be choosing monthly winners. So the earlier you get your auto loan, the more chances you have to win. So don't wait. Visit foundersfcu.com/auto to learn more or begin your auto loan application today. Not a Founders member yet? Visit us online or stop by an office to learn more about Founders and see if you qualify for membership. We have the financial tools you'll need and the personalized service you deserve. Relax, you're with Founders. Terms and conditions apply. Membership qualification required.
And I didn't stop there, I swear. From the time I wake up to the time I lay down, it's the devil's playground everywhere that I look. Swear it's there in my blood, I was born to be lost. Lot of lines that I crossed, little more than
I tell you, the transfer portal, John, creates some interesting deals. So you had Michi Johnson transfer from from Ohio State to South Carolina, back to Ohio State, back to South Carolina. Now I'm seeing where Henry Kasmer, shortstop, who transferred from Ohio State to South Carolina, now is going back to Ohio State.
He was the player to be named later in the Michi Johnson trade.
Maybe so. Maybe so. He's a good player. Had a good year at South Carolina. Better than maybe many had expected. Ryan Bakes, the reserve catcher who's transferring, he posted he's going to Illinois State, former South Carolina reserve catcher, freshman, going to Illinois State. All right, phone number 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number. For you here on Sports Talk, let's go to the phones. Tiger Bryan is up first tonight over in Lancaster. Tiger Bryan, welcome in. How are you?
I'm doing great, guys. I want to tell you something now. I forget the guy's name for calling you a cheapskate, not paying for Chris or whoever to go to Omaha. Yeah, why don't he pay for y'all to go to Omaha?
He's just a hater. He's just a hater.
Well,
yeah, and that's not on Phil or Sports Talk. That's a personal situation that I had to work through. So no, that's not on Phil or Sports Talk at all.
But that kind of offended me because I love y'all. You know what I mean? Hey, y'all ain't cheap. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well,
what you
I'll put it to you this way:
what,
we spend every dollar that we make. What comes in goes back out. So we're doing our best to help the economy in South Carolina.
Well, y'all do a great job on that. I mean, I've been listening a long time. You ain't never been a cheap. I mean, me and you had ups and downs, but you ain't never. I ain't never had to bail you out of jail or buy you groceries. You know what I mean?
Not yet, and we hope that continues to be the case.
You know I will. But,
you'll be the second call we make. Go ahead, TB.
Hey, what you think about my the Sammy Brown's brother, linebacker, coming to Clemson? That's going to be that's going to be. I've seen him on tape. He's a beast too.
Yeah. Hey, we got to hit the break. We'll touch on that, but he is a heck of a pickup for Clemson. We'll be back in a moment.
Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's your Wednesday evening forecast. A few isolated storms remain possible through the evening with otherwise partly cloudy skies overnight. Lows fall to the low 70s by morning. Looking to Thursday, highs stay near 90 with more scattered storms developing in the afternoon. Rain chances climb slightly to 40%. That chance holds steady each afternoon through the rest of the week. I'm Cal Moss with your on-point local weather.
Dave Ramsey here. Do you want your money to work for you rather than you working for your money? Go see my friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They're not a mega bank and have been serving the Midlands since 1936, offering good old-fashioned customer service and free services. They'll look out for your financial well-being. With 14 locations, check them out today at palmettocitizens.org. Federally insured by the NCUA.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Downtown Los Angeles was bustling with dog walkers and commuters touting coffee cups after the first night of curfew. meant to tamp down tensions following days of protests over President Trump's immigration crackdown. Los Angeles police say they detained more than 200 people from Tuesday through Wednesday morning, mostly for failing to disperse. The world's most powerful politician and its richest businessman stepped back from their war of words Wednesday, but it's unclear if the peace will hold. Elon Musk wrote on X that he regretted some of his posts about President Trump. For his part, Trump said on a podcast interview that he didn't blame Musk for anything. On Wall Street, the Dow down by a point, the Nasdaq dropped 99, the S&P lower by 16. More details at srnnews.com.
I bet you've heard us say this, you can't pick your power company. So how can you control your power bill? By partnering with Ken and his local team at Broker Solar. Ken, our power is not getting any cheaper.
So every year there's typically a rate increase that happens, and the utilities claim that they want to keep up with their operating costs. Now, Broker Solar allows you to take control of that cost, own your power, create it, store it, and then use it when you need it. There's special solar financing that would take advantage of the tax credits. You can have several options on how long you'd like to pay off your solar system and how quick the return could be.
No two homes are the same, so you work with homeowners, business owners to fit their needs based on how many solar panels they need and even where they want the panels to go. Most folks prefer it on the roof, but some don't.
We frequently get asked about solar on the ground or even on a separate solar structure like a carport or a lean-to that comes off the house.
Call Broker Solar. Call them now, 803-807-7417 or online, brokersolar.com.
Get ready for a summer of adventure with Founders Federal Credit Union. Now through July 31st, you can take advantage of a special 6.99% APR on select purchases made with your Founders credit card. Whether you're planning a road trip across the state, a relaxing beach getaway, or finally checking off that bucket list destination, we're here to help you make it happen. With this promotional APR, you can enjoy your summer without the stress of high interest rates. Pack your bags, gather your loved ones, and get moving to the vacation you've been dreaming of. Founders makes it easy to enjoy more. So go ahead, kick back, relax, and soak up every sun-soaked moment of your well-deserved summer break without breaking your budget. Learn more and see the list of qualifying purchases at foundersfcu.com/cc. Let Founders help you take the trip of a lifetime. Promotional rate ends February 1st, 2026. Effective APR of 13.25% to 17.90% will apply. Terms and conditions apply. Membership qualification required.
Escape the hustle and bustle of everyday life with Spa MD, your sanctuary of rejuvenation. Feel the tension melt away as our expert team guides you through your customized wellness journey. From soothing massages to revitalizing treatments, we promise a remarkable experience that leaves you feeling renewed and empowered. Discover the calm within every visit. Reach out at 251-9400 or online at visitspamd.com to explore your options. Your oasis of tranquility awaits.
Experience South Carolina's printing powerhouse. Professional Printers is your trusted partner, bringing over 30 years of expertise in print and graphics. From digital printing to web and sheet-fed solutions, we handle it all with a team of over 100 dedicated professionals. Locally owned and operated, we have 2 locations in the Midlands and serve our customers with pride, ensuring top-notch service and quality in every project. We do it all, including storage and promotional products. Visit proprinters.com and elevate your printing experience with us.
Welcome back, everybody. Sports Talk on a Wednesday night. Hope you had a wonderful day as you're heading home or heading out for some kind of activity. Tuned into Sports Talk. We appreciate that very much. Make sure you check us out every night over one of our great radio stations around South Carolina. I was listening on the way in to WGTN out of Georgetown. Great radio stations in a great city. Actually, we're broadcasting tonight. You know, Bergey's at the Bergey Palace tonight. We broke in to the Bergey Seaside Inn, the Bergey Seaside Inn in Georgetown. So we're actually broadcasting from Bergey's getaway place in Georgetown tonight.
Well, I'm glad. Make sure to restock the fridge before you leave, please. That's all we ask.
Somebody could have done a better job cleaning the toilets. That's all I'm going to say.
I only use one of them while I'm there. I use the same toilet every time, so it's clean.
It's
the
a
rest
wonderful
of them I have
place.
no idea.
It's a wonderful place. Anyway, just a moment. We'll catch up with MJ at the U.S. Open. He'll be with us the rest of the week from there. And I wanted to answer real quick Tiger Bryan's question about Clemson acquiring the brother of Sammy Brown, Max Brown, and he's a heck of a good-looking athlete as well. Of course, he's still got 2 more years of high school, and so he's still got some time to develop. But, he's got the right genes, and he's very skilled at the linebacker position, much like his brother. So I think this will be a case of when he gets there, younger brother just falling in the footsteps of older brother. Bergie, nothing wrong with that. If he's 75% the player that his brother potentially can be. I think Sammy Brown only flashed his, a glimpse of his potential last season. Now with Tom Allen and Boulware running things at linebacker and Tom Allen running that defense, I think you're going to see them cut Sammy Brown loose and let his full array of athletic skills come to the forefront.
Well, considering he only started 6 games and, he was second on the team in tackles last year, Phil, gives you an idea of just the talent he has. And what Clemson fans will tell you that the reason that Lenore Sellers was able to run free in the fourth quarter is because they had taken Sammy off the field. So I don't know how true that was. I think you got to give a lot of credit to Lenore Sellers and his ability, but nonetheless, it gives you an idea what Clemson fans think of him and just the talent level. And you're right, if his brother is 75% of him, they've lined up 2 really good linebackers out of that family for sure.
Absolutely. All right. Well, it's another major. Boy, the majors come at you quickly now in the world of professional golf. The way they've got it set up. It's like a major a month, starting with the Masters. And you know what? That's not such a bad thing, except that it gets over so quickly. By when things wrap up Sunday at Oakmont, all we'll have left this year will be the Open, and that'll be coming up, in July, and then we're done with the 4 majors. But everybody looks forward to when the U.S. Open is at Oakmont because it can be a bloodbath for those golfers. Let's welcome in a man who has seen many a U.S. Open, including many at Oakmont, MJ Ward, joining us, and he'll be with us through the rest of the week during this time slot to tell us about what he is seeing at Oakmont. MJ, great to have you with us once again. How are you?
It's a pleasure to be with you guys.
Oakmont, does it send chills up and down your spine?
Well, I'll tell you, Phil, this is the 5th one that I've personally been at, and I actually attended the 73 event that Johnny Miller won with my father and other family members. And, I will tell you this, to use a baseball analogy, Oakmont is the equivalent of Fenway Park or Wrigley Field in baseball. The old Yankee Stadium, not necessarily the one that's there now, but it has always been at the hallmark of championship golf, and it's the most hosted site. This is the 10th time that they've been in the Pittsburgh area. It's just a real hotbed of golf, Phil. I think anybody who's ever been to Oakmont, it's not just the golf course. It's just the atmosphere of Western Pennsylvania and what it means to be here and all of the history that's attached to it. And one of the symbolic things, Phil, just to mention this real quick, this is the first time that Arnold Palmer is not alive, as we return to Oakmont. He passed away following the 16 championship a couple of months afterwards, and certainly right before the Ryder Cup matches. And his mystique, his visibility, his presence, and all of the history that's attached to the club is fantastic. But this is really one of the cornerstone clubs that exists, not just in the United States, but globally.
Do you get the feeling, amongst the golfers when they know that Oakmont is coming up on the rotation for the U.S. Open, that do they dread it, or do they view it as a great opportunity and a great challenge with a great golf course?
Well, some players.
How do you think the majority of the players view this? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a twofold answer. I mean, there are some players that are blindsided by the aura of the course and by the magnitude of the moment. But there is also other players who realize that, yeah, this is going to be a supreme test, but if they should come out on top, they're going to put their name along the likes of Gene Sarazen and Sam Snead and Bob Jones and Ben Hogan and Jack Nicklaus, all the key players that have won, at Oakmont in the past. So it is a legacy signature event. There are no fluke winners, Phil. There's only really one person out of the host of champions that have been at the U.S. Open here that you could really say it just happened to be a lucky circumstance, but he was able to win. But the rest of the players, they're all blue bloods, and they're all Hall of Famers. Angel Cabrera won here, DJ won here. I mean, they're not in the Hall of Fame yet, but I would anticipate in time that they'll be joining the Hall of Fame, given what they've done on the golf course. It's just a special place, Phil. It's the National Championship of American golf. And if you're a golfer, as much as the Masters and the PGA, are saluted for what they are, to be here in Western Pennsylvania, the backyard of Arnold Palmer, and all of the things that have happened here over the years, it's truly a special place. I get thrills, being on the grounds, meeting many of the key people. I interviewed just recently Bob Ford. He was a longtime head professional at Oakmont and Seminole. He'll be the starter. He's been the starter here at the U.S. Open since he retired in 2016 from Oakmont. It's really a special place, and it really goes to the adage, Phil. There are two types of people. There are people who play golf, and then there are golfers. And the people who are here in Western Pennsylvania, they're in the latter category. These are real golfers, whether they're members at Oakmont or they just happen to be fans of the U.S. Open and want to come see the best in the world play. It's a really special place.
MJ Ward with us tonight, starting to look forward to the U.S. Open. Starts tomorrow at Oakmont. And MJ, I have long believed that if you're going to win a national championship in any sport, you need to be nearly perfect. And I think this stat that I just saw earlier today from Mike Wan of the USGA, that roughly 1,400 players have teed it up for the U.S. Open at Oakmont, and only 28 of them have finished under par. 2% of the players that step on that golf course have been able to conquer it and get under par. What is the difficulty about this golf course, and do you anticipate anybody being under par come Sunday afternoon?
Well, that's going to be the interesting question. I think speculation is really what you have to go by. I go by what Bob Ford said when I interviewed him, and it really simply, if you have drier conditions, you will see plus numbers. That happened in 2007 when Angel Cabrera won. He won at +5. But on the other Opens that I've been here at Oakmont, there's always been a day of rain or possibly even longer. I mean, the '83 championship went to a Monday finale before Larry Nelson won. It all depends on how the wet conditions are. I mean, you get, when players are able to have a pretty good idea where the ball will stop, they can then figure out how they're going to be able to score. But when you get firm conditions, and the rough is as dense as it is. The thing about what's important to remember, Chris, on the U.S. Open, it just takes one hole to take you out of it. I mean, if you're not really smart about what you do, and that includes Scottie Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, I mean, anybody, you just have to understand that you have to take your medicine in a U.S. Open. You get out of position, you need to get back into play. If you make a bogey, it's not going to be penalizing. But where things really happen is when players follow up one bad shot with what somebody told me was a dumb shot. Okay? It's okay to play a bad shot. That's going to happen. But if you follow up with a dumb shot, then you're looking at doubles and triples, maybe even higher, depending upon, the severity of the condition that you're facing. And this is going to come down to a mental grind like it always does with the U.S. Open. You're just going to have to put out of your mind that this is not going to be an 18 to 20 under par 72-hole tournament. That's not going to be the case, but you can't take yourself out of it. And I think that's going to be a discipline factor that a lot of players are going to have to get used to, because if you fall behind, you're not really out of it. But where you can't be going is trying to push the envelope too hard and too fast. And when that happens, you could put some big numbers, and then that could put you in a position that you may not be able to recover from.
Talking with MJ from Oakmont up in Pennsylvania. U.S. Open begins 6:45 in the morning. We have a South Carolina guy being the first three guys to tee off on number one, so we'll be watching very early to see what the locals can do. Not a whole bunch of locals from the state of South Carolina in it this year, but we'll be keeping an eye on that. And, of course, the leaders at the top of the board as play moves on. So, Oakmont, there's so many things to look at this course and be in amazement about. Of course, you talk about the rough, and then there are the famous bunker, the Church Pew bunker, which is an incredible piece of architecture from a golf standpoint. Have you ever gone out and watched golfers deal with that situation in the Church Pew?
All I can tell you is I hope you have a good relationship with the Almighty, because if you go in, you may not come out in one single shot. I mean, it is really unique to Oakmont. It's sort of like the road hole bunker at St. Andrews. Those are unique, pieces of real estate. Henry Phones and his son, who really basically shepherded the golf course from the very beginning, their belief was if you play a loose shot, you're going to get penalized hard, and you're going to really feel it. But the thing about it, Phil, here's the thing that people don't realize. The putting surfaces at Oakmont are probably among the fastest in the country. They pride themselves on it. I mean, Augusta National is certainly right up there. Oakland Hills, the South Course there in Detroit, are among the toughest. You need to be in the right position, and to be in the right position, you need to be in the fairway to do it, because if you're in the wrong position, you can easily 3 and 4 putt some of these greens if you're in the wrong position. The thing to keep in mind, Phil, I always amazed by this stat. When Nicklaus won in '62, he had to go 90 holes. He only had 1 3-putt, Phil, in 90 holes. When you think about that is just off the charts. And somebody's going to have to be very good at getting the ball in play, and they're going to have to be very good around the greens so they don't leave themselves, the constant 6 to 8 foot putts to stay in the game. And it's going to require a lot of discipline. A U.S. Open, Phil, is not just about your physical skills with a golf club. It's about the mental skills between your ears. And you have to be able to understand that there will be times when you have to take your medicine and you have to back off. If you don't, you run the risk of really putting a high number on the card. And I think that's going to be the test, this week. Just to give you one other thought on this, guys, the weather pattern for the tournament is supposed to be pretty decent, probably through about the third round, and then we may get some storms come through. So the character of the golf course is going to be a little bit different, probably early on as opposed to maybe later on in the final 2 rounds.
MJ, you mentioned that Jack Nicklaus had to play 90 holes because that was back when the playoff in the U.S. Open was an entire additional round. Since 2018, they've gone to that 2-hole aggregate playoff format. Do you like that better because folks will actually get to see the champion crowned on Sunday, or do you wish they would have stuck with the 18-hole playoff on Monday?
I think, why the USGA waited as long as they did. I mean, guys, I don't have to tell you this. Everything in sports is related to television. So you really got to be able to give people a conclusion. It's hard as any club would know, Augusta National is one of them because they have a major every year. One of the difficulties is you have to depend on volunteers. I mean, they make or break a championship. Without them, you really can't do much of anything. And, the mobilization of the volunteers, if you had to bring them back an extra day, yes, it's possible. But by and large, 18-hole playoffs have been really anticlimactic. The one that comes to mind that really wasn't was when Tiger beat Rocco Mediate at Torrey. They went the full distance. That was still 18 holes, and then they went extra holes before Tiger eventually won it. But the aggregate way of doing it makes the most sense. You were able to accomplish by getting the viewership, on television and then wrapping up the event. The extra day usually is anticlimactic. And many of those playoffs have been one-sided affairs. So, I think the aggregate way works best.
All right, last thing, we'll let you go. Got about 2 minutes here. So they've added a couple of more pews to the Church Pew bunker. I think there are 13 pews in there now. So they've toughened
lucky
that
13.
up. Yeah, really. So besides that, the rough that we talk so much about along the fairways, and, of course, any golfer would tell you, I don't worry about the rough if I keep it in the fairway. That's all well and good. But is it Is it about the same? Has it been about the same every time they've hosted the Open, or is it like maybe deeper and thicker this year than it was back in 2016?
I will say this, Mike, not to sound like a weather report, but
yeah,
the month of May in the Pittsburgh area had a lot of rain. So the density is the key element of the rough. It's not just the length, it's the density. And if a ball happens to sit particularly low in the grass, in some cases, Phil, you may have to take a wedge and just go out sideways. I mean, you cannot advance a ball if you can't see it. And, that was one of the questions that came up during the USGA press conference today. They have enough spotters to watch, but you're going to have to watch carefully.
Yeah.
I mean, a ball can just settle down really tight. And, again, players are going to have to judge, according to being sensible with what they decide to do here. And sometimes you have to realize that if you take your medicine, make a bogey, you can still maybe get it back at some latter point. And, that's why the great players have won at Oakmont, Phil. They know how to think their way around the golf course. It was not just about hitting golf shots. They were able to use their minds and succeed. And the bottom line to this is when you look at that roster, it is probably the finest roster for a course that is not hosting a major every year like the Masters. I mean, I think Oakmont can stand up against anything. The only comparable course would probably be Muirfield in Scotland for the Open Championship. But I think it's going to be an exciting situation this week, and I think it's going to be interesting to see, does Rory come back in play here after a bad week at Canada? Does Scotty continue to do what he's been doing? I can't see a player, Phil, performing well at Oakmont who has not been in form recently. You just don't show up and somehow, you're going to get to the Wizard of Oz land just because you showed up. This is going to require having form to play. So, seeing Scotty in here, this could be the kind of golf course he could excel at because he's the best at bogey avoidance. He does not make the kind of mistakes that put yourself out of position. But this is a U.S. Open. We're going to find out in 72 holes who becomes the champion of American golf.
It's going to be so awesome to watch. And again, MJ, I mean, you're a golfer of certain abilities and levels, and the millions of golfers who'll be watching who are just regular golfers, that we all love to see these guys have to hack it around sometimes, just like the rest of us. We like to see them have to come out of that rough sideways or battle a bunker like that. We like to see sometimes there's, instead of winning championships at 12, 14, 15 under par, 5 over, 6 over, getting it done. So I think it's going to be fascinating to watch this thing over the next 4 days, and we thank you, and we look forward to having you with us tomorrow night and Friday night, same time.
MJ, thanks, buddy.
Phil, it's always a pleasure. It's exciting. Anybody who's a golfer, this is the Super Bowl of American golf, and along with the Open Championship, the end of the 2025 calendar is really going to go out really super with Oakmont now and then Royal Portrush coming up next month. I look forward to it.
Thank you, my man. Talk to you tomorrow night. MJ Ward from Oakmont outside of Pittsburgh. Appreciate MJ being with us. He does such a fantastic job. He has obviously great knowledge, but he has such a feel for the game and such a feel for telling the stories and such a feel for the locations that he is at when he talks to us. That's why I love having him on with us and why I think he's such a valuable member of the Sports Talk team here, Bergie.
I agree. He understands the history of golf. He's like Tiger Woods as a reporter. He understands the history. He understands the big moments, and you can clearly tell that he loves Oakmont and thinks I got the impression, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but if the U.S. Open were in a similar, same spot every year like the Masters, he'd like to see it at Oakmont every time. I'm not sure the tour players would, but he certainly would.
And MJ, why we love him, unlike the plumber, he works cheaply. That's why we really love him, unlike the plumber. We'll be back in a moment.
I'm State Treasurer Curtis Loftus. Whether it's becoming a teacher, dentist, or engineer, every child deserves the chance to chase their dreams. Investing in a child's education with Future Scholar, South Carolina's 529 College Savings Plan, can help turn those big dreams into next steps. So don't wait. You can start with any amount. Contributions are tax deductible and earnings grow tax-free. Discover the smart, easy way to save for college at futurescholar.com.
I'm attorney Jim Corbett. That's the sound of a big hit on you and your car or truck. I've been an attorney for more than 30 years, helping people who get injured in car wrecks and truck wrecks. If you have serious injuries, call Jim Corbett, 803-765-2968, or email me at jim@jimcorbettattorney.com. That's Corbett. I don't get paid unless I recover for you. Jim Corbett Attorney, for your best recovery from a big hit, 803-765-2968, or jim@jimcorbettattorney.com.
Every lottery ticket purchase keeps education in our state moving forward. In fact, the lottery has raised more than $200 million for state school buses to get our students to school safely every day. Then, the lottery helps those students go even further in their education by funding the Life, Hope, and Palmetto Fellow Scholarships. So remember, when you play the lottery, you're keeping South Carolina students on the road to success. Learn more at sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
Do this everywhere we go. I think you know this ain't no one-horse rodeo. I think you know when we pull up green lights, I show. I think you know that we go.
Hey, speaking of the U.S. Open, which begins in the morning, and speaking of MJ and having MJ with us, we appreciate that. This marks the return of the U.S. Open Championship to Oakmont for the 10th time, as we talked about. 175 bunkers, one of the most difficult tests in all of golf. Only 4 golfers have finished under par the last time that the USGA hosted there. Defending champion Bryson DeChambeau in the field, as is last year's runner-up. 2011 champ Rory McIlroy, world number 1 Scotty Scheffler, is returning to the course where he made his Open debut as a 19-year-old in 2016. Coastal's Dustin Johnson makes his return to Oakmont as well, site of his 2016 victory. So, with all that knowledge, head over to UnderdogFantasy.com, and right now, for your chance to compete for cash prizes, and don't forget that Underdog has fantasy options for Major League Baseball, NASCAR, and the NBA Finals as well. Be sure to visit UnderdogFantasy.com and register with the promo code SportsTalk That's Sports Talk Bonus, and claim your free pick. First-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Remember, the only way to claim your bonus cash is by using the promo code SportsTalkBonus. Must be 18 or older, 19 or older in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 or over in Colorado for some games, 21 or older in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
So if Dustin Johnson wins the U.S. Open again this year, does that mean Coastal will win the College World Series?
Oh, do the two go hand in hand? Are they connected?
I'm wondering. Yeah, his alma mater back in the World Series this year after winning it in 2016 when he won the Open there.
How about that? Braves won today 6-2 over Milwaukee. Schwellenbach went the distance. Be right back.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri has launched an investigation into an immigrant rights group he says may be bankrolling the Los Angeles riots. Bob Agnew reports.
Senator Hawley chairs the Judiciary Subcommittee on Crime and Terrorism and says he wants to know whether funding for the riots came from a local nonprofit, the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights, or CHIRLA. The organization has received funding from sources including the Department of Homeland Security. Hawley says now credible reporting suggests CHIRLA may be providing logistical support and financial resources to some of those involved in the riots. Bob Agnew reporting.
There are more job cuts at Google.
Google has offered more buyouts across several key divisions in a fresh round of cost cutting ahead of a court decision that could order a breakup of Google's internet empire. A judge is expected to rule before Labor Day on whether to allow a ban on Google paying billions annually to Apple and other tech companies to lock in its search engine and require Google to share information with rivals. The job cuts also come as Google is ramping up spending on artificial intelligence. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
General Motors says it's investing some $4 billion to shift some of its production facilities from Mexico to the United States to avoid tariffs that could cause prices to go higher.
GM says the investment will be made over the next 2 years and is for its gas and electric vehicles. The company says it will also be able to assemble more than 2 million vehicles per year in the U.S. President Trump signed executive orders in April, relaxing some of its 25% tariffs on automobiles and auto parts.
Correspondent Marcelo Sanchez reporting. On Wall Street, the Dow down by a point. More on these stories at townhall.com.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation and a regular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduce stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. It may increase your stroke risk. Eliquis can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding, unusual bruising, or tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. Medications such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners may increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
South Korea's military has shut down loudspeakers broadcasting anti-North Korean propaganda along the inter-Korean border. Correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports.
The South had resumed the propaganda messages and K-pop songs in June last year, following a years-long pause in retaliation for North Korea flying trash-laden balloons towards the South in a psychological warfare campaign. Seoul says the move is part of efforts to restore trust in inter-Korean relations and promote peace on the Korean peninsula, reflecting the new Liberal government's first concrete step towards easing tensions between the war-divided rivals. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys has died at 82, one of the world's most beloved and influential musicians. His family posted news of his death to his website Wednesday. News and analysis at townhall.com. From Washington, I'm Keith Peters.
On-Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's your Wednesday evening forecast. A few isolated storms remain possible through the evening with otherwise partly cloudy skies overnight. Lows fall to the low 70s by morning. Looking to Thursday, highs stay near 90 with more scattered storms developing in the afternoon. Rain chances climb slightly to 40%. That chance holds steady each afternoon through the rest of the week. I'm Cal Moss with your on-point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point. This is The Point. Make the point.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number, 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil and Chris with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Okay, we are back. It is Sports Talk across the state of South Carolina on this Wednesday night. Phil Kornbluth, Chris Bergen, and the plumber, Josh Cohen, back at our studios in Columbia. Appreciate everybody joining us tonight. Thanks to MJ Ward for his report from the U.S. Open. Looking forward to having MJ back with us on Thursday and Friday nights as well. We've got recruiting coming up for you in just a few minutes. Lots to talk about there, so stay tuned for that. Of course, you know, the other overriding topic in terms of the college sports world here this summer and going on for now, you know, months on end or years on end, but maybe to some degree, coming to a conclusion, but we'll have to wait and see how things evolve here over the next several months. But the whole shift of college athletics from the so-called amateur model to now the so-called pay-for-play model, or the NIL model, or just getting the cash in the hands of the players model, however you want to term it. We welcome in to Sports Talk to shed some light from his perspective as a longtime coach and now an author, and, of course, the son of one of the most famous coaches in the entire history of football. We welcome Jay Paterno to Sports Talk, and it's great to have you with us. Welcome in. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Fantastic, and thank you for joining us tonight. It's an honor to have you with us, and you have written a new book, Blitzed, the all-out pressure of college football's new era. Great name. I love the name. What does it all mean from your perspective? What is the point you're making with your book?
Well, the thing of the book is it's a novel, and it's what I call nonfiction fiction. So really, the stories in here are all true, but if you write them as nonfiction, then you get lawyers involved and everything. So it gives me the freedom to write these things without friends of mine in coaching calling me and say, "I can't believe you wrote that about us," or that kind of thing. So this is a book that will pull the curtain back on a lot of the things that are going on and a lot of the challenges that coaches have right now, as opposed to 6 years ago, 7 years ago. The NIL part, the transfer portal, getting money, you guys, revenue, all these things that are coming, that have come to college football, that have changed us forever, are all in this book, as well as some of the challenges off the field, the mental health aspects of players that suddenly have to deal with parents that are saying, you got to go from this school to that school because there's more money there. Or it's a bit, you're not playing, you got to move, even if the kid likes it. So it takes you through all that and takes you through that through the eyes of a fictional coach at Ohio State, which is probably as tough a job, the toughest job in America.
So from a coach's perspective, how are you viewing this new era and how it's going to impact a coach's job, a coach's role, a coach's approach to dealing with a football organization?
Well, it's going to complicate it immensely because you essentially have a salary cap. So you've got, at Penn State, it'll be about $16.5 million. I'm on the board of trustees at Penn State, so we've been talking about this. So you're looking at $16.5 million in football revenue sharing that's going to go to the players. So do you give this player $500,000? Do you give everybody the same? You got to figure out how you value certain positions versus others, and it becomes very much like the NFL. That's why I think a guy like Belichick may have which positions to value more than others. But the complicating factor is if there's a big-time running back in South Carolina and Shane Beamer or Dabo Swinney look at it and say, well, we're not going to pay that much for running back, and that kid goes to Auburn or some other place, they're going to hear about it. So there's all these pressures that have come onto them in terms of how do we allocate our money, how do we deal with who we recruit, and it's not going to be a lot of fun, that's for sure.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you think the fun is out of the game now? It's now totally all business. And, you can't or I can't, none of us can speak for how, coaches are going to handle everything now as far as is the joy still in the game for them. Dabo Swinney famously said a few years ago, and I'm paraphrasing here, but, if we have to compensate them, I'm trying to get the quote right, if to compensate them more than just the scholarships and, if we have to end up paying them, then I'll go find something else to do, blah, blah, blah. It's not an exact quote, but it's close to it. Yeah. So, for a guy like Dabo Swinney or a guy like Shane Beamer, or for a guy like your dad was as a head coach, with the joy, could you see the joy of the game being lost on these guys now?
Oh, I think there's no question it's going to make it tougher. But I think if you really enjoy the challenge, this is going to really show which coaches have a good handle on their teams in terms of understanding their players and how they what makes them tick, and really. And I've talked about this a bunch of times. anybody can build a roster. You can throw all the money you want and get NIL money and all this stuff and get all these guys and assemble a roster. But can you make them into a team? And I think that's where I think Shane Beamer's done a good job of that. Dabo's done a good job of that. I think Ryan Day did a good job of that. The Ohio State, which showed after they lost to Michigan, he was able to rally those guys and go win a national title. And I think that's going to be the real challenge in college football is everybody's going to have money to throw at people. But can you get these guys all to put the I and me away for the we and us? And that's really going to be the great challenge. And I think coaches like the guys we're talking about, they'll find the excitement in that challenge and the joy in that challenge. I think sooner than later. But anytime something changes this dramatically, there's always a trepidation of what the heck, what did I sign up for here?
Yeah, and something else too. When you talk about because of the portal and the ease of transferring, and maybe they're going to tighten that up because you're going to have contracts. And the contracts are going to hopefully bind players to a particular school for at least maybe 2-3 years. Maybe there'll be some kind of a buyout. If that can all be, enforced and not challenged in court, who knows what kind of lawsuits are going to come up. But here's my point.
Oh, they're coming, believe me.
Yeah. But my point is you're supposedly still going to classes and doing things related to being a student while you're in college compared to, say, the NFL, where you might change a bunch of players over the year. Every year you're changing players because of the salary cap. You have to move players and bring in new players. But that's all they do. That's all those guys do is focus on practicing with their team, learning the playbook, and that's their whole focus. So it's easier. I would say it's easier from the NFL standpoint than it would be from the college standpoint of putting all these pieces together into a team.
No question about it. And you just hit the nail on the head. Nobody is talking about what this does from the academic standpoint. The ability to jump from one school to another at any time, the credits transfer. And you don't hear anybody talking about that. It's almost like nobody cares. And that's unfortunate because, I look at a guy like one thing about Ohio State ended up number one in the country in football, but also number one in their academic performance rating in the NCAA. So they're doing something right. I think you look at Notre Dame, they're doing some things right. I think there's a lot of people doing things the right way, but can you continue to do that? And I think, as you mentioned, there are more lawsuits coming. If you're the next great player coming up and you're a 10th grader and you're the best quarterback in the country right now, you're not a party to this lawsuit. You can say, you can take your salary cap, but I want to be able to shop myself around and see what I can make, and I'm going to sue to have that freedom. And also now, I think you've seen this with a basketball player at Tennessee who's done with his 5 years. He's saying, wait a minute, I'm not maybe good enough to go to the NBA, but I may, and I can make some money in Europe, but I can probably make more money staying here and playing another year or two in college and getting a lot of money to play here. So who is the NCAA to limit me to 5 years in college? And, it reminds me of, John Belushi in Animal House saying 7 years of college down the drain. Are we going to get to that? I mean, who knows,
Uh-huh.
Still,
the name of the book is
one of the greatest
Go ahead, Jay. I'm
comedies
sorry.
of all time. To this day, that's still one of the greatest comedies of all time, and they never make a sequel. It's perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anybody who likes Animal House is good here. Blitz, the name of the book, The All-Out Pressure of College Football's New Era. Our special guest tonight, Jay Paterno. And, Jay, it's easy for, I think, a lot of folks to look and see what Ohio State can do and what Clemson can do and what South Carolina and Texas, you name all the big Power 4 schools. Let me put you as the head coach at, say, South Florida. Pick a G5 school. Is it, in terms of difficulty in your mind, would it be more difficult to contend and compete with the transfer portal or more difficult with the name, image, and likeness and having to pay the players because you just don't have the budget that those bigger schools have?
You're going to have to find some people that pony up some money. There's no question. And that's going to be really, really hard on those programs to compete. And to avoid becoming feeder programs. That's the other part. With the guys being able to jump, a kid coming out of high school might go to USF and then have a great first year, and Alabama says, oh, you know what? Here's money, come to our place. So I think, there's no question that they're going to have real challenges to try and compete with those other schools. And I think, As a trustee at a Big Ten school, I will tell you the two conferences that are a problem right now are the Big Ten and the SEC, and there's an arrogance that we have that somehow everybody owes us. And I think that's unfortunate because I started out my coaching career at UVA in the ACC, and I've coached on the 1AA level, when UConn was a 1AA and James Madison were 1AA. So I understand the levels of football. It's such a great game that, it's unfortunate that we're heading down this road, but you're going to have to find the money. But even at a school like Penn State, we had $208 million in revenue. We're top 10 in the country in athletic department revenues. Even we are break even or lose money every year for the last 6 years. We don't have $25 million laying around either to pay the revenue sharing. So we got to do some things in terms of how we fund all this, plus the extra scholarships that we're now going to be able to give out. So it's not a cakewalk for anybody.
Jay, I've got a quick follow-up to that. You sort of, when you talked about a school like Penn State, maybe doesn't have $20 million just lying around, do you foresee a situation, and this is away from football, where even the big schools, the Penn States, the Ohio States, the Alabamas, start cutting programs, start cutting sports because they just can't afford to fund everything, and the majority of this stuff is going to have to go to football, it appears?
Well, I think we're going to see some Title IX lawsuits very quickly. In fact, there's already one, I think, announced that's going to get into the revenue sharing side, and that's going to make it tough to cut sports. Plus, there's not as much money in cutting sports as you think. Our women's volleyball team last year won the national championship, and their operating budget, and that's not counting salaries, but it's not much more, but their operating budget's only about $750,000. So there's not a ton of money there by cutting sports. You cut your golf team, you're getting, you might get a $200,000 or $300,000 there. So you're going to have to cut a lot of stuff. I think you're just going to have to find new ways of getting revenue. People are putting surcharges on football season tickets. You're just going to have to, I think ultimately you have to cut staffs. I mean, we went from a staff of 35 people in our football program in 2011-12 to now 90 plus. And it's the same number of guys in the field. So do you really need that many people? I think those are going to be the things everybody's going to have to start asking themselves. And you're going to have to get by with a little bit fewer people, and people have to work a little harder.
Couple more minutes here with Jay Paterno. The name of the book is Blitz. Where can folks get the book? Is it obviously be available at the normal online locations, or where can they find it?
Amazon's got it. All your online retailers will have it. You can go to jvpaterno.com, which is my website. I have it there as well. So you can get a lot of different places. And if anybody sends me some Maurice's Piggy Park barbecue up, I'll send them a free book. So I know there was a fire. Did they rebuild yet?
As far as I know, I think they did.
Okay, good, because that to me was a sad day.
Yes,
I had many a pulled pork sandwich there over the years.
What brought you to South Carolina, recruiting?
Well, if we go way back, I dated a girl who went to South Carolina when I was in college, and that's the first time I saw Maurice's Piggy Park. But I've been recruiting. One thing about recruiting that's great is you get to eat a lot of different places. And I really have always enjoyed that, and that's why I've always enjoyed getting down to that part of the country, especially the mustard sauce in Central South Carolina, in the middle of South Carolina, is very, very unique and very good, by the way.
Absolutely. Well, we're known for our barbecue here in South Carolina, so I'm glad you have found a place that you like. Back to the business.
How long have you guys been in Columbia?
Oh, well, we're both. I'm a native, and Bergie's been in the state most of his life, and we've been doing this show now 42 years. If I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay. So you remember group therapy in Columbia, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, you know who owns group. You know who
I don't know. I was in there once
therapy.
or twice. I don't know who.
Steve Tannehill.
Oh, I do. Oh, well, Steve's from Altoona. I coached him at a camp up there. Yeah. Oh, he owns that. That's hilarious. Oh my God, that place is different.
He bought that many years ago. But back.
Good for him.
Want to get back to the business here before we have to let you go. I thought I saw a story. I was trying to pull it up here very quickly. That Penn State and another school had reached a deal for private equity for the athletic department. But then I saw where that was debunked by some others. What's the deal on that deal?
Well, it's technically no, but we have since one of the things we did is a group called Elevate that came in, and we've sold them. They gave us upfront money, and they've taken over our ticket operations. We've done the same thing with our concession. So Elevate has private equity money. They just got an infusion of $500 million in private equity money. So technically, we didn't enter in a private equity deal, but money from private equity is going through Elevate, and people say money's fungible. So I think what is happening is private equity is coming, and I think it's going to be necessary when you start looking at the kind of money that people are going to have to come up with in the revenue sharing, and I think that's the next thing to see. But I think some of the private equity, I've talked to some people that are talking about throwing money in private equity in different schools. Some of them still want to see where this ends up. Does it end up with collective bargaining? Does it, the lawsuit, the Title IX stuff? I think some of them are still waiting to see where that money goes. But that story was totally not true. It's just a matter of we didn't sign a private equity deal directly with a private equity group, but a group that is taking over our ticket sales and ticket operations has private equity backing it. So a little bit of a misconstrued or, misperception there, but not totally wrong.
Yeah, just because you've hooked up with a company that does private equity. And, of course, I have to ask you, with your famous father and what happened at Penn State at the end of his career, what has it been like for you? Obviously, you're still well received in the Penn State community, being on the board of trustees and very actively involved. But coming off the Sandusky thing from way back then, how is it for you and the Paterno family now, about 15 years or so removed from that?
Yeah. Well, I think what has happened over time is, the initial media reports, eventually wane into what really happened. As people have seen what happened, they realize Joe received a report of one incident and reported exactly the full extent of the law, and was never, he was at the grand jury. The grand jury went on for 3 years. He was in the grand jury for a total of 7 minutes because he was not involved in this thing at all. And the incident that came to him was after Jerry had retired. 2 years after, so he wasn't even working for Joe. So none of us certainly knew anything about what was going on. And my own kids were around him. I was around him as a kid. So if we knew, we certainly would not have put our kids around a guy like that. And if you look at the way that now the prosecutors in the case cleared him, the state of Pennsylvania cleared Joe, and they all said the guy did the right thing and reported exactly what he was supposed to. And I think that story is becoming more and more prevalent as people look back, but it is unfortunate. It was a tragic situation in terms of what happened to some of these young men in that case. But certainly it was not a Penn State issue. It was an issue with the perpetrator himself, because we certainly had no idea that any of that stuff was going on.
Has your dad's legacy up there in State College, has it been restored? They took down the statue and all that kind of stuff. What are things kind of back to normal as far as his legacy is concerned?
Mostly. The statue's not back up, but I think that's something that'll happen eventually. But that's for other people to decide, not me. But, the reality is this years ago, I was, this would have been 2013, 2014, sometime around then. There were some people trying to get me to run for political office because I was out of coaching, and I was down in D.C. and I was in the office with Vice President Biden at the time. He was vice president, and he said to me, "Jay, I appreciate the way you've kind of stood up for your dad now that he's gone." He said, "But understand this." He said, 90% of the people in the country know what kind of person he is, and the other 10%, they never liked him. You never had him. You're never going to get him. The hell with him, and don't try and convince him because you're never gonna. And it was great advice, and that's kind of how I've kind of looked at this thing all along. There were, Pitt fans, a lot of them will never like Joe because he was 23-7-1 against them in the season-ending rivalry, which I miss because I look at Clemson and South Carolina playing the end every year, and I'm envious, and some of those other ones, Georgia Tech, that are not in the same conference that play every year at the end of the year, and I miss that. But the reality is you're never going to convince everybody of what the truth was in that case, and you can't go nuts pulling your hair out about trying to do it.
Absolutely. Jay, we can't thank you enough. It's great having you with us. let's do this again sometime soon when you want to come back on and talk some college football. We'd love to have you back with us.
Come down and get some barbecue.
Absolutely, and I think you guys are looking at a good year with those two teams in state. That's for sure.
I think there's a chance that it could be very special. Thank you so much. Good luck with the book, and can't wait to get a chance to read it and keep up with what you're doing. Thank you, sir. Great having you with us.
Take care. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. Jay Paterno, name of the book is Blitzed, the all-out pressure of college football's new era. And, you know, he is a great guy to have on. The fact that he's on the board of trustees with Penn State, I mean, he knows everything that's going on inside that circle of dealing with this new NIL world and the spending of the money and dividing up of the money and dealing with the lawsuits and trying to keep this team happy and this coach happy and this player happy. I mean, he's got his hands right on top of all that stuff.
And Phil, I thought something really interesting when I asked him, do you foresee a situation where schools start cutting sports because they need that additional revenue to go give to football or men's basketball or women's basketball or whatever? I thought he brought up a fascinating point I hadn't really considered. All right, let's assume for a moment we cut the golf team. What does that do? $75,000 out of our budget? That's not enough. So you'd have to start slicing. You'd almost have to cut your athletic department. Just let's take South Carolina, 19, 20 varsity sports. You'd almost have to cut it in half down to 10 to make any significant dent in what is a sizable piece of the pie. So I think he's right. I think schools are going to have to find a much better way to generate revenue to be able to compensate for all the sports they want to fund as opposed to cutting sports, which I'm not an advocate of, but I thought that was probably an easy way to fix that problem. And according to Jay, it's really not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I still think everybody's trying to get a grip on all the nuances that these new regulations are bringing to the forefront and trying to figure out a way. I mean, I'm trying to understand how – I mean, you're going to have $20.5 million to start. You don't have to spend all that, but all the big boys are going to spend it. And they say, of course, that that's going to increase because the revenues are going to increase from a television standpoint, from the television contract standpoint. I mean, are we ever going to reach a point where that revenue does not go up from the television standpoint? You know, again, we look at these television networks as the golden goose, but these television networks are, I mean, they're into some things as well also that are causing them issues, like all the breaking up of certain companies, the streaming aspect. I mean, how much longer can you continue to expect to charge more for your product and actually have somebody who's going to step up and pay it? Like your ABCs or your Foxes, they're carrying the freight right now, and the schools are depending practically solely on those TV contracts to fund this direct pay to players arrangement that they are now forced to engage in.
Well, Phil, we've watched this for, probably 20 years with regards to the Super Bowl, talking about, when is the money going to dry up, when's somebody going to turn the spigot off. Every year you hear about the Super Bowl and whether it's Fox or ESPN or CBS or NBC, whomever's carrying the game, is always able to pump out, record high prices for a 30-second commercial. Yeah. Sooner or later, you would have thought the businesses would have said, look, the amount of publicity we get from the Super Bowl is great, and our product, needs that kind of publicity. But we can't afford to pay $50 million for a 30-second spot. But it continues to go up.
Appreciate Jay being with us. We're going to talk about Landon Duckworth coming up.
Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's your Wednesday evening forecast. A few isolated storms remain possible through the evening with otherwise partly cloudy skies overnight. Lows fall to the low 70s by morning. Looking to Thursday, highs stay near 90 with more scattered storms developing in the afternoon. Rain chances climb slightly to 40%. That chance holds steady each afternoon through the rest of the week. I'm Cal Moss with your on-point local weather.
What's better than getting the best Wagyu and Hereford beef anywhere in these parts and getting it delivered to your door? How about knowing you're still supporting local farmers in Saluda over at H&J Cattle, where tradition meets quality? Visit HandJCattle.com. Place your order for $50 or more, get free delivery in Richland or Lexington County. Plus, Point listeners get 10% off your order. Enter keyword The Point as one word for your discount. HandJCattle.com.
Attention. With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters in Washington. The United States is drawing down the presence of staffers who are not deemed essential to operations in the Middle East and their loved ones due to the potential for regional unrest. The State Department said Wednesday that it has ordered the departure of all non-essential personnel from the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. The department is also authorizing the departure of non-essential personnel and family members from Bahrain and Kuwait, giving them the option to leave those countries. Downtown Los Angeles was bustling with dog walkers and commuters touting coffee cups after the first night of curfew meant to tamp down tensions following days of protests over President Trump's immigration crackdown. On Wall Street, the Dow down by a point, the Nasdaq dropping 99. More details at srnnews.com.
Lots of plumbing companies out there. Few are truly local. Time to discover the difference with Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning. See, when I faced plumbing woes at the Cohen home, Josh and his dedicated team, well, they were my go-to solution. They make a commitment to exceptional service. They arrived on time, clearly detailed all the costs and procedures, and efficiently handled all my repairs without any surprises. These days, how often do we complain about a lack of customer service out there? With Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning, these folks are professional. They're courteous. They're skilled at what they do, and they've earned my trust, and they've earned my recommendation to you. From urgent repairs to the tankless water heater you've always wanted, they've got you covered. Visit franklinplumbing.sc.com or call 799-2222. That's 799-2222. Hey, you tell them Kev sent you from The Point. I'm pretty sure you'll want to thank me later.
Step into summer with no unwanted guests in your home.
At Modern Exterminating Company, we're not just experts in pest control, we're your neighbors.
Glenn and Melanie Matthews here. Modern Exterminating has been part of this community since 1955, offering unmatched experience with the family touch.
Trust us to keep your home pest-free with care and dedication that only a local family-owned business can provide.
Experience the Modern Exterminating difference. Call us at 765-2315 or visit pestfreesc.com.
Let us keep your home truly yours.
Hey y'all, it's Ted from Flight Deck Restaurant. We're introducing our new healthy gluten-free menu. For your choices, we offer charbroiled certified Angus ribeye steak, juicy marinated grilled chicken dinner, fresh grilled salmon, authentic Greek salad, hamburger steak with grilled onions and melted cheese, shish kebab with grilled chicken, veggie blue plate with a choice of 4 vegetable selections, spring chicken salad, and of course, our famous slow-roasted pot roast. Come and enjoy a healthy gluten-free menu at Flight Deck Restaurant. We at Flight Deck Restaurant thank you, and God bless.
Are you Dad's favorite? Do you want to be? Then get him the gift that he actually wants for Father's Day at Palmetto State Armory. Upgrade his old dull knife with a new one from brands like Bubba Blade, Kronos, and Leatherman. Give him some much-needed peace and quiet with electronic hearing protection from Walker and Axel. And if the only thing that's worse than his lame jokes is his tackle box, make his day with new fishing gear from Rapala, Berkeley, and Strike King. Palmetto State Armory has the perfect gift for the dad that has everything. And if you still can't decide on what he wants, then take the easy way out and get him a gift card. Visit us at one of our 9 retail locations or shop online at palmettostatearmory.com.
Do you crave growth for your business? That's where The Point comes in. Fran Halloran here. Kevin Cohen and the other local hosts like me have worked to create a space where listeners transform into family. Are you a local business aiming for the stars? You need to get with Kevin and let him help create an individualized blueprint for your growth using the influential stage of The Point Radio. Reach out directly at 563-8558. Teaming with The Point, make this year extraordinary.
Hey, if you missed any of the interview with Jay Paterno, we'll have that up, of course, for you in podcast form after the program, so you can catch it there if you missed it. Great stuff from him, great insight from a coach's standpoint about the new world of college athletics, so check that out. The old world of college athletics still means recruiting. It still means making phone calls, sending text messages, building that relationship, going and checking on them in the spring, going and checking in on them in the schools, having them come in for unofficial, official visits. That still continues. And as we get into our recruiting report in just a little bit, as a lead into that tonight, we are pleased to have with us the head coach from Jackson High School in Alabama, state championship team from last season. Coach Cody Flournoy joining us now. He's a famous guy himself, but maybe not as famous as his quarterback, Landon Duckworth, who is a target of South Carolina and a few other big-timers in the SEC. So I thought, let's get Coach on to find out what Landon's thinking coming off his official to South Carolina last weekend. A pleasure to have you with us, sir. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. We actually just got back from the University of Alabama. We're in 7-on-7 season here in the state of Alabama, and so we went up there and competed against some other high-profile teams that the university had invited up there, and we got knocked out. We had a good round robin set, and then when we got in tournament play, we got knocked out. So we're back at home now, but had a pretty good day. That was our first 7-on-7, and speaking of Landon, he did really well. He's elite, and just glad he's on my side.
Well, I was going to ask you about his skills coaching him. He's a big kid. A lot of people compare him to Lenore Sellers and Cam Newton type quarterbacks. What do you see in him?
He's that guy. All right, so recruiting is different now. This is about my 20th year coaching high school football, and of course it's changing every year. It's still changing. They're still changing the rules this summer on just NIL, and of course everybody's thinking we're going to the profit share model and all this stuff. So, but one thing that hasn't changed is that there's each year there's an elite just handful of quarterbacks across the nation. And right now we have one of those, and it's kind of odd because we're in a small school down here, and we actually have a combination. We have about 4 Power 4 guys. We have 4 Power 4 guys here at this school. There's about 100 kids per grade, about 400 kids total in our school, and to have 4 of them, they're all 26 guys, and so it's been really unique. But speaking on Landon specifically, there's a handful of quarterbacks across the nation that are getting recruited in this high level, and he's one of them. And so it's just kind of been really unique because a running back, most running backs can go plug into anybody's system and do well. Quarterbacks are different. Landon's he has dual threat ability. I'm not saying he's a dual threat because we don't run him. He runs when he needs to, and it scares the heck out of people. But his skill set is ultra athletic. He played for him. He was on the state champion. He started guard for the state champion basketball team. We won back-to-back championships there. He's a sprinter for us on the track team. We won 4x1 state track back-to-back championships there, and of course he led us to the football state championship last fall, and we hope to do the same again this year.
He sounds like special talent and a special winner. What about his visit to South Carolina this past weekend, his official visit? We all know the history. He was once committed, then he decommitted, and he's been looking around, making other visits. But what can you tell us from what he told you about the visit to South Carolina this past weekend?
Yeah, and so one of the things, because we do have several guys here that are getting recruited heavy, one thing to let you guys know is Coach Beamer has done a great job recruiting him. Even when he decommitted, and Coach Beamer was like, listen, we understand because he committed so young and so early, and they did a good job then, but then to circle back around because he kept that connection going, talking about Coach Beamer, and it's just one of those things where it's relationship based. Landon's in a position where NIL is a factor, but he's gonna, whatever that price is for him, it's gonna be similar across any school that he goes to. And what I'm saying is that the money's not an issue. It's always an issue, but it's not an issue. It's going to be the relationships because of where he's at. I'm talking about talent-wise, meaning that he's going to garner whatever dollar amount that he's worth at multiple Power 5 schools. Right now, it's South Carolina, Ole Miss, Auburn, Florida State, and so all these schools are going to be able to offer something similar. So it comes back to relationships and feeling at home. And I'll say this, not so much from Landon, but from Landon's mom. His mom raised him. He's a single family household, and she loves South Carolina. She said it feels like home. So, if that's anything positive, that's about as good as I can tell you there.
Absolutely. That's got to be big news for South Carolina fans to hear that, because as you well know, having been around it, if you can win mom, you can pretty much win the recruiting battle most times.
Yeah, and that's been one of the key points, because we have a big 5-star tailback here, and it's the same type thing, E.J. Crowell. So, but look, he's got a great relationship up there. They've been up there multiple times. They really like it. Auburn's making a late push on them. Auburn's quarterback room got totally turned over from last year, and so they're making a big, heavy late push on them. Ole Miss has been on them pretty hard, and so I don't know where they're going to go, but I know that, speaking of Landon particularly, it's just going, we talk about, hey, where's the best fit for you? What's the quarterback room look like there in front of you? South Carolina's pitch for him is to come in and be quarterback one from the get-go. And, of course, we know Lenore Sellers is there, and I think Landon fits a lot of that mold. So when he decides to make that jump to the NFL, that Landon would step right in and continue a lot of what Sellers has been able to do.
So I've got him down for Florida State this coming weekend, and then Ole Miss the last weekend. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I don't know what's going to happen with Florida State, because he's going to the Elite 11 camp. So he'll be going. He'll fly out Monday to California. Him and his mom's going out there. Elite 11 are the top 11 quarterbacks, and they go out and they go through this series of competitions and film work and all stuff. It's nationally televised event. It's a really big honor for him, and so I don't know how the Florida State weekend's going to go, because I know he's going to go to the event, and it may time up right. So, but really coming off the South Carolina visit, I think, to me, and of course he hadn't been to Ole Miss. He likes Ole Miss. But I think South Carolina's, a favorite right now.
You would put the Gamecocks number one with him coming off that visit?
Yeah, I would.
Mm-hmm.
But, he still got one official visit to go. Everybody's been laying down the red carpet for him. He's a big get if you can get him. But, just kind of talking with mom and stuff. But they'll make that decision together. They've been doing this thing for a long time. And Landon and his mom, they'll make a good decision on that end.
Do you have a plan in place for when he's ready to announce? Are you guys going to do something at your school? Just let him post something on. Yeah, what's your plan?
Yeah, so just because we got a good relationship with him. He's been our quarterback here starting for a long time. This will be his 4th year starting for us. One of the things that we suggested for them, it's like, hey, listen, let's try to make this decision before the season. You can make it whenever you want to. But one thing that's also on this is that, and me and you talked about this earlier, but his phone rings all the time. He's getting calls from people that he don't know, and it's kind of for a teenager, it's kind of a heavy thing sometimes. And we don't want it to be like that. We want it to be enjoyable. And fun, and it is, but at the same time, it's a lot of weight on it. And so we're just like, hey, going into your senior year, let's try to make that decision before the season starts. So they talked about a late July, maybe early August commitment date. And so, we want to guide him along and try to help him make the best decision between him and his parents. But one of the things is, hey, let's going into this season, let's try to take a little bit of load off of you from this, recruitment standpoint.
And you feel like when he makes this commitment, this one will stick. There'll be no more waffling.
Yeah,
He'll be done.
So, you know, the only commitment that he had was to South Carolina. That's the only one he's had. His mom's really tough. She owns her own business. She's a tax professional, and she's like, listen, we're not ones to run around and just make decisions and do commits and decommits. And so they hadn't committed anywhere else. So the only commitment they had was South Carolina, and so because he committed early, he didn't want to. They felt a certain way when they went to visit other schools, but yet they were committed. It's like, hey, I've got a girlfriend, but I'm going to see all the other girls, you know. And it's like, yeah, that's not what we want to do either. And so to be fair to South Carolina, they said, listen, I'm going to open my recruitment back up. So whenever he commits, this should be it.
Yeah. We appreciate you joining us tonight, Coach, and good luck with your 7-on-7 moving forward and everything else. Yeah. And we will keep in touch with you because, of course, like you said, the quarterbacks, they are the straw that stirs the drink for everybody. You got to have that big-time quarterback if you're going to be successful in college football. So
you guys know that, hey, this is the face of your program. It's the guy that's going to touch the ball every play. He's also got to be able to carry himself the right way, speak the right way, and he's going to be the face of your program. So that's what you're getting. And with Landon, he's going to come in with a big smile and a big personality. He's a guy that everybody loves, and so you're getting a big piece there. And if he comes in and has any success, sky's the limit for him.
Well, we thank you once again, and we'll keep in touch. And good luck with everything moving forward.
Hey, thanks, guys, for having us on, and hope to for Landon to do some big things and maybe even be a Gamecock up there.
Thank you, sir. Good talking to you.
Hey, thank you. All right.
We appreciate you. Thank you. Cody Flournoy, head coach at Jackson High School down in Jackson, Alabama, state champion, and big-time quarterback, big-time players on that team. Berkey, I'd like to see him match up with Thompson High School out of Alabaster. Now, Jackson's 1A and Thompson's like 6A. It'd be like Abbeville and Dutch Fork. That's kind of how I envision that, like an Abbeville going up against a Dutch Fork. Yeah.
I'm not sure Dutch Fork would want to play Abbeville, though.
Yeah. Jackson's got some players, man. I'll tell you what, it sounds like they are loaded up. All right, we're going to come back and give you the full recruiting report. That was just a taste of it, but how about that? Coming off the visit, of course, people are projecting him to South Carolina. But now we get the official word from his coach that South Carolina indeed stands number one. Might not take that visit to Florida State. Looks like the Ole Miss visit is still on for the 20th. That's the one, if you're South Carolina, I think you got to navigate that in a positive way. Be right back.
There's a lot of things we take for granted in our lives. Your home's AC will run cool. Your drive-through coffee will be hot. And the car will start when it's time to take your kids to school. It's when things don't go as planned that you start thinking about who to call and where to turn. The good thing is, you can prepare for life's most difficult days by calling the Larry Lucas Agency today. Larry is a State Farm agent that has been taking care of people across South Carolina for more than 2 decades. You probably have insurance, but switching is easy, and bundling can save you hundreds or more. Most importantly, the Larry Lucas Agency can help you choose the protection you want at the price you want. All backed by South Carolina's #1 home and auto insurance company. Visit LarryLucasAgency.com today or give Larry a call at 803-799-1998. Like a good neighbor, Larry Lucas State Farm is there.
You've put in the work for your education. The extra early, extra late, extra work. That's because you understand education opens doors to better pay, better opportunities, and a better you. Being educated about playing the lottery is no different. It helps you be a better player, one who knows when to play and when to take a rain check. The lottery's a game, so let's keep it fun. Learn more at sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
Hi, Phil Kornblut here with our good friend George Bryan III. Heard every Friday night on Birdies, Bogeys, and Biceps right here on Sports Talk. George, the Tsunami Bar, a very valuable tool for golfers. Why is that?
Well, the first thing that I say is the tempo. It's the only tool out there that allows the study of tension right from the first grab to be expressed, and rhythm and tempo is what makes the bar work, and it gives you something awfully special to keep those hands soft and get that rhythm going.
Learn more about Tsunami Bar technology by clicking on the digital ad on our website, SportsTalkSC.com, and save 5% by purchasing online using the promo code BBB5.
The Sports Talk Recruiting Report is sponsored by Seawell's Catering.
Okay, the recruiting report tonight, as always, is brought to you by our good friends over at Seawell's, where I think their barbecue could stand up to anybody else's in the state. They're not known for their barbecue, but I'm sure that their barbecue would stand up next to anybody else's barbecue in the state. And they do have, as part of their daily luncheon buffet on a particular day, they'll have some barbecue. Like what's coming up tomorrow there, Plummer? Do we have barbecue on the menu for tomorrow?
No barbecue tomorrow, but there is. It's a Thanksgiving Thursday with baked flounder fillets and lasagna as well.
Oh, that's very good. Friday?
Oh, it's a beef brisket Friday, teriyaki glazed salmon, and carved applewood ham.
Oh.
You know, I've realized Tuesday is the barbecue day.
Barbecue is on Tuesday.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. All right. And you need the very best in the catering business. You just want to give Seawell's a phone call at 803-771-7385. That's 803-771-7385, online at SeawellsCateringSC.com. Okay, so you just heard the interview with Landon Duckworth's coach. Some good stuff from him. Wide receiver Travis Johnson could one day be catching passes from Landon Duckworth, but it's too soon to know. He's 6'4", 185, Chesapeake, Virginia, hotly pursued by 6 schools, none of which seems to have an edge with him at this point as he continues with his remaining official visits. South Carolina is one of the 6 and had Johnson and his mom in for an official visit the first weekend of the month. USC receivers coach Mike Furry, head coach Shane Beamer did their best to lay out everything on the table for Johnson. The Gamecocks have a need for a tall, speedy receiver in 26, and he fits that description perfectly. Johnson said the visit was great. Culture is amazing. Offensive system is great. He loves Coach Furry. Shane Beamer told him that they need him, and that he said they had a great, genuine conversation. He really likes Shane Beamer as well. He has an aunt who lives in Blythewood, and so she was part of the family visit for that official visit weekend. So that's something else in South Carolina's favor, you could say. He's also been to Indiana and Penn State. He goes to Michigan this weekend, followed by Virginia Tech and Georgia. He will announce on July 4th. South Carolina target defensive end Gustav Henriks Ross of Sweden was offered by Georgia. Defensive tackle Seven Cloud of Butler Junior College, Kansas, who was offered by South Carolina, is staying with his Georgia commitment he made last December. He was a visitor there over the weekend. Offensive guard Zachary Lewis of Sewanee, Georgia, offered by South Carolina, had scheduled an official visit for the 20th, but he committed to Georgia. Receiver Brody Keefe of Charlotte, who had an early offer from South Carolina, committed to Duke. Defensive tackle Tyson Bacon of Hoover, Alabama, who was offered by the Gamecocks, committed to Miami. Former South Carolina quarterback Dante Reno is transferring to Yale to play for his dad. 2027 defensive tackle Antoine McCoy, 6'3", 280, St. Paul's, North Carolina, camped at USC this week, as did 2029 defensive back Coron Russell of Philly, and he was offered by the Gamecocks. Punter Mikey Bukakis, who was offered by Clemson last week at camp, committed to Texas after visiting over the weekend. Offensive guard Cannon Pickett of Tampa, who was offered by Clemson, made an official visit with the Tigers. He committed to Miami. 27 offensive tackle Nathan Carson of Irmo was offered by Georgia. 27 receiver Jaden Kelly Murray of Somerville was offered by Maryland. Wide receiver JoJo Johnson, 6'4", 170 of Richmond, committed to Coastal Carolina. Have you got yourself a touchdown call for JoJo, voice of the Chanticleers?
First, I got to find out who's going to be throwing the ball to JoJo.
How about a whoa for JoJo? Huh?
That's going to be the more interesting thing, is figuring out, is it Tad Hudson who started the Myrtle Beach Bowl, or is it an entirely different look in the backfield? And Coach Hollingshead was not giving that up very well yesterday. He kept a lot of that close to the vest.
I still like my call for South Carolina touchdowns, and that's going to leave a scar.
That'll leave a scar.
Get it? Scar. It's going to leave a scar.
Mm-hmm.
SCAR. That's going to leave a scar. That's what I would use as my touchdown call if I had a play-by-play job to do a touchdown call. To baseball, Western Kentucky outfielder Ryan Weidman committed to Clemson today. He's the son of the Tigers' former basketball player Tom Weidman. Spent one season with the Catamounts after 2 seasons in junior college. This season he hit .398, 10 home runs, 20 doubles, 6 triples, 58 RBIs, 45 stolen bases. Also, Wofford outfielder Tyler Back is transferring to South Carolina. According to D1 Baseball, Back played 2 seasons with the Terriers, career batting average of .311, 2 home runs, 14 doubles, 39 RBIs. He stole 25 bases. Former USC pitcher Ryder Garino committed to NC State. Mercer, first baseman outfielder Ty Daly, transferring to Clemson. In 3 seasons with the Bears, career numbers of .286, 58 homers, 188 RBIs. How about those two back-to-back in the batting order? Weidman and Daly for Clemson.
Be good stuff for them. If they can duplicate those numbers in the ACC, that'd be really good stuff for the Tigers.
Potentially nasty. Also, Clemson picked up Georgia transfer outfielder Bryce Clavin. As a freshman this season, 27 games, hit .333, a homer, 2 RBIs. Clemson left-hander B.J. Bailey reportedly has entered the transfer portal. That's according to On3. Woodruff native, spent 3 years at Clemson after transferring from SMC. Mostly a reliever in his career. Did have some starts this year. 4-7 career record, 5.17 ERA. Upstate infielder Vance Sheehan has committed to Miami. Big South Freshman of the Year 2 seasons ago. In his career with the Spartans, .321 average, 15 homers, 23 doubles, 86 RBIs, and he stole 30 bases. Right-hander Connor Frail of Gaston College, North Carolina, transferring to the College of Charleston. In 2 seasons, 14-3, 3.92 ERA. North Carolina outfielder Reese Holbrook is transferring to the College of Charleston to play for his dad. So cool. We'll get a breakdown on him from his dad when he joins us on Friday night. And one more football note, South Carolina target running back Carson Baker has Florida and Florida State at the top of his list at this point. He told On3 he has his official visit with the Gamecocks coming up on June the 20th. There you go. That'll do it. What do you think, Bergie? Had some great stuff tonight.
Yes, we did. I was really impressed with Jay Paterno. I thought that interview was outstanding. He was fun. And it was interesting that you asked him about the situation up at Penn State. It was clearly a story for a long, long time. And evidently his dad's legacy is being repaired a good bit as time moves on.
Sounds that way. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.
WQXL